Hello friends, good to be with you again as we continue, as I said, navigating through these waters that have become very choppy because of the Indian residential school question, the graves being discovered, rediscovered, the whole Indigenous, non-Indigenous relationships in Canada and in and by the Church. 2 weeks ago, I spoke about Pope Francis, and if you remember, I said he didn't refuse to come. He wants to come. He isn't being prevented from coming. It's just he's told the Catholic Church in Canada, you have a lot of work to do before I come with any integrity, both for the moment and what will flow out of it because of what flowed into it. You, Catholic Church in Canada, have a lot of work to do. And when I say Catholic Church in Canada, I'm saying the bishops, Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops, but also each bishop in his particular church, his local church. That's what we call a diocese, a particular church, a local church. So, each bishop with his clergy, priests, deacons, each bishop with the whole of the baptized Catholics within a designated territory. And so then that's the laity. So bishop, priest, and laity. But what we're also seeing more and more is laity on their own. Initiatives by laity to bring questions of justice, questions of collections, questions of reconciliation. I see that and I just rejoice in that. I just really, really rejoice in that. Because we've always said that the church has, in essence, two lungs. And here I'm not talking about Western Church and Eastern Church. I'm talking about the hierarchical gifts, the structure, the institution, the bishops, called to create communion, lead into communion, and then what we call the charismatic gifts, the gifts of the Holy Spirit amongst all of the people of God. All right, so now that we've established what I'm saying when I'm saying the Pope is telling the Catholic Church in Canada, you have a lot of work to do. Firstly, what I'm going to say is, I'm not even going to try to touch everything in 10 minutes. So again, week after week after week after week, I wish to, from my mind, my heart, unpack what does the Catholic Church have to do. Not so that the Pope can come, but so that we can have right relationships now and into the future. And we know what right relationships look like. It's called respect. It's called working together, solidarity, collaboration. It's called friendship. It's called encounter and communion. Not of institutions, but of individuals. And all that the institutions can do to bring about that encounter individual by individual. Every layer has work, but true reconciliation will only come about, or the fullness of reconciliation, when it's one person to one person, one heart to one heart, one mind to one mind, in terms of understanding into action. Judge Murray Sinclair, Senator, says, acknowledge, apologize, act. The Catholic Church, and not just the bishops, but the whole Catholic Church in Canada, is having a huge difficulty to apologize, to ask forgiveness in the appropriate way. Why? Because we haven't done enough work altogether in the acknowledging, in the being informed, in the taking the time, the effort, the resources that are needed so that we, non-Indigenous, have even a bit of a sense of what was lived by those Indigenous children. 150,000 of them over a century, as they were taken from the love of their parents and the love of their community. That's the big sin. Taking children away from the love of their parents and community. So and we've heard it, it's a time to listen. Yeah, but it's a time to listen so that we can learn. Learn in a host of ways. Online, programs like Circles of Reconciliation, 5 Indigenous people, 5 non-Indigenous people, whether that's people who've been in Canada for 6 generations or came from the Philippines 2 months ago. Doesn't matter. We're all Catholic together, we're all Canadians together. And so there's that. It's called Circles of Reconciliation. It's set out. There's a way to do it. All you need is, we must do this. And so at the diocese, that's what we're going to do. Even now, we're at work. Actually, the 2 people who are in charge of the marriage, family, and respect for life office are organizing what's called a blanket exercise. It's how you get a sense of just what this whole contact and colonization and settling of this land brought about for the Indigenous. Well, they're organizing, going to be in September, and it's going to be like an afternoon in French, the morning in English, so different families, 50 people or so, parents, grandparents, children, little children, and we'll do that again and again and again to offer the opportunity to be informed, because that's our part right now. And then I'm going to throw in this, but we'll talk about it next time. But what about the collection? Well, this is just me. I think as much money as we give to the Aboriginal, to the Indigenous community, making up to 25 million, well, and we've got to do that for any sense of integrity. However we do it, we got to do it. And then they use that money however they wish. And my dream would be that we would raise as much money, diocese by diocese, all the dioceses in total, but each diocese, what it takes to inform the people of its diocese. Some dioceses had no residential schools and no reserves. Saskatoon is that. Toronto is that. But Saskatoon and Toronto had a large proportion of their urban population being Indigenous. We're all in this together. So I'm going to say it again. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next week.